Okay, so we are starting today's session, and uh, I sent a starter file earlier in a case study or scenario, which we'll be using to develop a website. All right, and I just have the file. So what you're supposed to do is when you receive the zip file, just unzip it, or you can just uh, let me show you. Let me make a quick demonstration. If you receive your zip file like this, you can just double click it. Then your folder over here, just right click and then copy to clipboard. Then you go to where you usually get your work done. It could be your desktop or your document or whatever folder you mostly use. I can just come here and then paste it over there. So I have everything over there. Let me delete it because I already have it here. So I have my project folder here. I'll just right click and then open with Visual Studio Code. Great. So the first thing you're gonna do is our file organization, all right? When you're gonna work on a project, especially if it is a mega project where you're gonna have several components, several elements, there are ways by which you go about everything so that as you move along, you ensure consistency, you ensure an easy workflow, all right? So first of all, I'll come here and create my index file, index.html. Then also I will create my CSS file. So I'm gonna name this style.css. Then I'm gonna have my HTML boilerplate. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Can you guys hear me now? All right. So I just had to rename. I had to rename my files because I realized that in the file names there were spaces, and in most cases it's not going to cause a problem. But then, when your file is rendered on different servers, there may be challenges. So, in very earlier sessions, I did mention that we are not going. We shouldn't. You should make sure that in your file names you don't have spaces. Instead of spaces, you replace them with dashes. All right. So first of all, let's focus on our file structure. I believe you guys can hear me now. All right. So first of all, I'm going to create an asset folder. That's what we usually do. So inside our assets folder, you're gonna have maybe your style sheet. You're gonna have maybe your script. Maybe you're gonna have your images and everything. All right. That's what you do typically. But then with the project we are coming to work on, there may not be enough files to do that. But then I want to do that for you to see how you should organize your items. So folder now I'm gonna create what assets, and then I'm gonna click on the asset folder, then create a new folder again. That's gonna create a new folder inside the asset folder. So I'm gonna name that word styles, or I just say style. Then I'll select the asset folder, create a new folder again, and call that script. That will be for JavaScript files. Then I'll click on that again, create a new folder, and call it what images. And that is where.
Yeah, please can you go over again? It seems like I'm lost due to
All
my
right. So what I was saying is that we are first of all, what we are doing here is creating different folders, right? And then we are trying to organize our workflow. Everything goes where it's supposed to be. Then we will pick the files. Are you getting? So we first of all have an assets folder, and inside the assets folder, that's where we are going to keep all the assets that we'll be needing to develop the website. And so we have images folder, and then we are going to move all our images into the assets folder. And the images include the JPEGs, the PNGs, and the SVGs, right? And this is showing, this is supposed to be, this is an SVG, but that's how it displays in what do you call it, in a text editor. So I'll select all of them and then move them into my images folder, move, and then I'll move all of these as well into the images folder again, and I'm moving all of them. And then my style folder, let me do it over here so that you can actually see it. So my style, I'm gonna cut the style from here, open assets, open styles, and then paste it over there. All right. So now I only have my web pages showing in the file directory, the roots directory. Then I have the assets folder. When you're working on bigger projects, you're going to have different folders as well. But what I want to do, this is what you do typically. But I want to take out all of these things, go back here, all right, and then delete the assets folder because it wouldn't be necessary in this particular instance. So we have our index file, we have our images folder, which contains all our pictures we're going to be using. Then we have the script, which will contain JavaScript files. We'll be doing a little bit of Java. I'll add a little bit of JavaScript just to make sure that what we are coming to do looks appealing, but then we'll do JavaScript into details. And so I'll put a JavaScript file here. I could add it in the body, but I'll put it here for us to see how we go about that. And then our style here will contain all our style sheets. All right. So I'm going to my index. Let me open my text editor again, and we have everything clean. Now we don't have lots of items scattered around for us. So I have my style sheet open here. And now let me do something over here. First of all, let me go to Google Fonts and then look for a nice font which we could use to build the project. So I could go to font.google.com. Then look for a nice font. Let me go to and see. Lato. Lato is a nice font. And I could just go to, I have already selected some fonts a while back, Inter. And let me just get rid of that. And I was looking at Lato, I think. All right, so get the font. Then I'll go to embed code. Then I'll go to import. And then I won't copy everything over here. I'll just copy the at import because we are going to put it in our style sheet over there. Then I'll come back here, and then what I'm gonna do is copy this, the font family. with the fallback, and when we did fonts, we explained what that is. So I'll first of all put that on my body, all right, and then I will save it, all right. Now I've linked to the style sheet over here. Let me start my live server and let's see the outcome. While we wait for the live server to get running, all right. So let me now move this here. Great. And for now, we haven't seen anything, right? And after putting a text here, let me just use my Word font plugin. And you realize that the font family is still Times New Roman. But we have linked to the style sheet over here. And then inside the body, we have declared a font family of what? Lato with a fallback of sans serif. So even if the Lato cannot be found, which in this case it can be found because we have linked to it, we have imported it over here. And we are doing the import at the very top because when you are bringing external resources into your style sheet, make sure you put them at the top so that if you need to override them, then that's going to be easy for you. And it is not happening because of one reason. When you write style.css over here, HTML assumes that this particular style.css is inside the root directory. So you realize that, let me bring this back here, and then you realize that the font has changed. Let's see the effect. Let me give the body a background color of red in this instance, and it's showing over here, right? Now let me move this back into our styles folder. Let me refresh let me go back, and you realize that this is not working. We haven't changed anything in HTML, and it's because directly like this means that CSS file is supposed to be in the same directory as the HTML file. And since this is not the case, what we have to do is first of all go into the style folder, right? So what we will do is we go to style slash, then inside our style folder we have what? Style dot what? CSS. And when you're doing it, VS Code even helps you directly. So when I have style and I bring slash, it will list all the files and folders that are in that particular directory. So I could just select it and it goes directly. And now it is working well for us. So basically, that is how you locate files that are in subfolders. Then we'll also let me just pull up this. I did post the yeah, so let me copy this and minimize this start notepad and paste this over there, right? So it says the question we have here is this one. As part of improving tourism in the country, the Ministry of Tourism has decided to put in place measures to ensure that citizens and foreigners can access quick and accurate information on several tourist sites in Ghana. One of such means is to get a website for each tourist center. Sorry, this is a grammar problem. For each, okay, so for each of the tourist centers, I think that was correct. Each website should contain information about the tourist site, photos, an inquiry form, and a form to book a visit. You have been contacted to build a website for Kakum National Park. Build a website that I didn't read through that. I'm sorry for those errors. Build a website that fulfills the goals of the client or the ministry, because the Ministry of Tourism is our client in this particular scenario. Then ensure that the website is device responsive and accessible on different browsers. So that is what we are going to be focusing on. And this particular project should be simple and straightforward, but then I will intentionally have to try to inculcate all those pieces and fragments we have learned, and then we could see how well we can put all of those to use. Let me not save that for now. Let me just minimize it. Great. So what I have here is what now. Let me name my page title, and let me call it Kakum National what, Forest. Let's use National Forest because I think that's what I used to design the logo. and that logo is not real. It's something fake which I made up. All right. Then you realize that when we are on this browser, when we are on Google Meet, we have an icon for Google Meet showing there. When we are on Google Phone, there is an icon, and any website you go to, you realize that they get what they have an icon that shows at the very top, right? Maybe their logo, and we call it a favicon or a site icon in some cases. And so we are going to add that in this scenario as well. So what we are going to do is just go to link, and then we can just select the favicon option. Visual Studio Code completes that for us. So in the href, we have to navigate to where our favicon file is. So I'll go to what images, and then I have favicon.svg, and let me save. And you realize that it has changed. The color is green, and it's a little bit difficult to see because I'm in dark mode. So but let's just leave it as that. Then for what we're going to be doing in the head section for our website, that is done for now. Then one thing I always do when I'm going to design website is I design my components first. The components are the buttons, the links, and maybe you have your forms and the things. Those pieces that you're going to be using them in several places. Um, I try to design them first. Then I could just pick it like a template for myself and then use it wherever it becomes necessary. So let me just take off this background color. And then another thing which you should always do when you're coming to work on a website is to do a CSS reset, so that all those what do you call it, default paddings and margins will go off, and it will become easy for you to manipulate whatever you want. So I'll just select everything, and then I would say padding of what 0, and then I'll give a margin of 0, and then I'll give a border, sorry, a box sizing, and I'll make that border box. And I explained these things when we were doing um, the CSS box model. If you don't get it, there is a link. If you look through the lesson progress, which we've been posting on the WhatsApp group, you should be able to get it and then check it. I would also include a link to the playlist when posting this video, so you can always check on those lessons as well. We have our CSS reset, and then basic things we're done. First of all, let me design my very first component, which is what. Let me bring a paragraph, all right, and then let me say a lorem, and I have my lorem text showing over there. And then let's say we have a button, all right. And then I did mention earlier that when you're putting buttons which are supposed to link to other pages or do other things on the web page, we don't use the um, generic button. All right, this can also work well, but you'd have to use JavaScript to be able to use it to redirect. All right, so you put an on-click function, an on-click event listener, then you redirect it. But then this is advisable to use the button and input form of submit when you're working with forms. But when you're not working with forms and you want to have a button, what we do is we use what a link, an anchor link like this. All right, then we can say click me. So we have an anchor link, click me over there. Then what we are going to do is we are rather going to style this like a button. All right, and so what I'll come here is I'll come here and put in a comment in my CSS, and then I'll just say components. Then I would say dot button, right? And I would go back and give this a class of what button, btn, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to style this. So first of all, I'll give it a padding of 15 pixels, 30 pixels. And what this happens is that it gives a padding top and bottom of 15 pixels, a padding left and right of 30 pixels. And we see some shift. You realize that the padding happened for left and right. Before that, let me comment this. Uh, Let me comment this and then give it a border of 1 px solid red, right? And we realize how close everything is. And then when we give it a padding of 1530, you realize that this has shifted, but in the top and bottom it occurred, but it is now overlapping the other element. Should we give this a background color? of red as well, you realize that it's covering those items. So what we're gonna do is to make sure this button, and it is because the button is an inline element, and that is why this happens. So we have to give it a property that would make it function like a block element, and the same as take properties for inline element. So we can go to display and then give it inline block. All right. So the padding now works for it, and then we can still continue to style it. So what we go, you can say TD of none. Then we want to take off the underline. Then we want to give it a background color of, first of all, let's do some green, because we are working with a forest. So we should try to inculcate that particular color, not much of it, but in necessary places. Then also we could give it a color of white, right? And then also you should refrain from using color names. So let's use a color code, uh, 0F0 for green. And this green is too loud. So let me just use this to change it, and I have this green which looks nice over here. And for the style I want to achieve, let's give this a border radius of 10 pixels, and this is not bad. Let me just increase my padding to 20, so we have a relatively bigger button than 40, and our button looks okay. But let's increase the font size as well, so we could just say font size of 1.125 rem. Now button is a little bigger, and I believe this button doesn't look bad. So anytime I have an element where I want to bring in a button, I just add this class to it, and it's going to work. So that even if I'm having to submit a form, all right, and inside my form I have a button, I could just give it the same class, and then it's also going to function like what the normal button. So when I go to click me, you realize that everything works. And this button has an outline. All right, what we have to do is come here and then give an outline of 0 as well. And this is not working. Okay, it should be a border. What happens is that form elements, it should be a none. Let me see. Form elements usually do not inherit properties, all right? So let me come back here and say a border of none. Sorry, outline of 0. What's happening? Let me click on this and check out what property that's supposed to be. Somebody has a hand raised. You can speak. Somebody has a hand raised. Did somebody raise a hand? All right, so it's still the border. Okay, I didn't add the border to the wildcard selector. That is why it's happening. So, okay, I think it works over there now. Now we have our problem solved, and this happens. You overlook something and it begins to affect you later on. So now let me take off. I've now styled my um, button. Then I would also want to style my link, right? So when I have a link, I want to give it a particular style. And remember, let's use this as what, as our base color. So I could just come and say dot link, and then I'll give it a color of this. All right. I'll give it a text decoration of none, and it's showing over there. It's the this is gone. Then I could give, so I could just take this off from here, and then on the body I'll give a font size of 1.125 frames, so that all my fonts pick up that size. And I think this doesn't look bad. Then next thing is, well, for now I think two basic components, it's okay. In a typical way, we'll look at them. So let's continue to building our website. So first of all, any website we're going to build will have a header, right? great. So first of all, I create my header. And another thing I like to do when I'm building websites is I like to create a container. And the reason for the container is, let me show you the simple. Now I could come in here and then I can add my image and give it a source of what. Let me go to images and then logo. So I could go to logo SVG and I have my logo showing over there. Once again, a disclaimer that this is not Kakum National Forest logo. This is just something I made for tutorial purposes. So I could give this a width of, let's say, 75 pixels, and then we have it showing over there. Then also I could come here and then let me say creating, let me give a div over here. And then that div, let me just select that div and say header div. Then I'll give it a height, sorry, a height of 10 pixels. Then a background color of red. Then I'll give it a width of, let's say, 75%. All right. And then we have it showing over there. Then on my header, I could do something. I just want to show you guys something real quick. On my header, I could say display of flex, and then when I give it a display of flex, we have the showing. Then we have justify content. I'll give it a space between, so we have it spreading. Now, when I click, you realize that this is showing this way, and this looks fine, right? Suppose we have content, we have text. Let me take off inside the div. Let me give it some Lorem text. Suppose we have some text, and let me take off the height from it. Right, we have some text, and this doesn't look bad. It looks okay on this machine, right? What happens is that a user who is on a wider machine, they are going to see a website like this. All right, they are going to see a website like this, and it doesn't look good. And this is looking small because I'm zooming out. But when they are on their machine, it's going to look okay, but then it's going to stretch. Everything is going to stretch. So what I do is I create a container, then I use the container to control all the other elements. So I only have to resize my container and make everything adjust to that container, and you're gonna see it in a moment. So I'll come back here. Let me take this off. Let me take this. Let me take this off. So here I could add what dot container, and then I'll give it a width of let's say 1280 pixels. All right, and then I'll come back here, take everything off. Then I'll give a div, sorry, yeah, a container over here, and we are still not seeing anything show. But I could give this a border of 1px solid red. All right. Yeah, somebody has a hand up. Ebenezer.
Yeah, so please, I want to know whether the website you say you are creating, is it the website that you are creating, or is it just an example?
Yes, we are creating a website.
The one, the Kaku National Park.
Yes. Are you asking if it's a real website?
No, I'm asking that the website you say you want to, the project where you say you want to do it, the Kaku National website.
Yeah.
Is it the one, are you on it?
Yes, that's what we are
Giving
doing.
us.
I have to explain the steps I'm doing. What I'm coming to do, most of these things I'm doing, we didn't cover in a tutorial. So I'm taking time to explain some of this so that you understand. You don't only have to watch me do it, you have to understand what I'm doing. Are you getting it?
Oh, okay, okay. But I said you have to take your time for us because you are taking us like you are speeding us.
Don't worry, you'll get it. You'll get it. So first of all, I've
Okay.
created this and then I've given it a width of 1280 pixels, which is standard for any web page. All right. If somebody is on a wider screen, they just have their website controlled within that particular space. So when you go to a typical website, let me go to web templates, and then I'll show you something. Go to images. Great. So with this particular image we are having over here, you realize that their logo starts over here, and let's say this is the full page of the full width of the website, right? That is there, but they contain everything over here, so that if somebody is on a wider screen, this background is going to stretch. This is will also stretch, but the content is going to be intact. The content doesn't have to stretch. I get it. And so I'm using the container to control that, and we will see its effect in a moment. I'll do it and then take it off again, and then we'll see how well that is going to work for us. So first of all, I'm going to give my container a weight of 1280 pixels, which is standard, and the border of 1px solid red. Then also I'll give it a margin of 0 auto. Sorry, margin of 0 auto. And now I realize that our container is in the middle and it looks great. So we're going to use that one to control everything we are going to be doing. And I'm doing it this way so that I don't have to give the container to the header itself, because those pages, those sections that are going to have background colors have to cover the whole page, and you'll see that in a moment. So inside my, I have my container over here. Then I'll give it a class of what, a header as well. So that when I need to start this alone, I'll use the header class. All right. So inside my header container, I'm first of all going to have my image, and then I'll give it a class of what, logo. Then I'll give it a source images, and then I'll go to logo.svg. Then I'll give it an alt attribute of what, Kakun National Park logo. Then this is my logo showing over here. And then also the next thing I'm going to do is, when you have a logo, you have what, your navigation bar beside your logo. So I'll go to ul dot what, nav. Sorry, I'll first of all go to nav. Then inside my nav, I have what, ul dot what, nav list, or whatever class you want to give it, or nav items. And then I have, first of all, I'm going to have what, my list item. And then inside my list, I'm going to add what, an anchor element. All right. Then let me give it an hash for here. Then I would say home, like we usually see on the website. So you realize that this is now contained over here. Then let me just make a few duplicates. Then we have about, we have gallery, we have contact. All right. Then let me have a last one, which is going to be book. All right. Great. So we have this showing for us like this, which is really cool. Now I could just add a class of link to all of these and give them a class of link, and they're going to be styled like our link, but this is going to be in a header, and we may have to apply a different styling to it. So what I'm going to do is, instead of giving a class of link, I'll give it a class of what, nav link. And when it gets to where I have to apply a specific style to those nav items, I'm going to use that class to do it. So I come back here, and then I'm going to say that I have this nav link over here, right? Then I think I'm done with my header. Let me start that, and then we proceed. Now I have to select this particular item. All right. Inside here, I have my nav link, and my nav link. Let me take my nav link from here. Let me maintain it. Let me give a different styling. So I could just say header styling. Then I'll go to what, dot logo. Then I'll give it a width of, let's say, 75 pixels. 100 pixels should be okay. It looks great. It doesn't look bad at 100 pixels. Let me see if 150 is okay. All right, 150 looks great. Everything is visible. Then I'll leave that for now. Then on my header container, which I styled dot header, I'll give it a display of flex, and then this is what happens. Then I'll give it a justify content of space between, sorry, space between. So we have this here, we have this here, just like you would see on any typical website. And then we have our logo. Let's leave our logo for now. Then we'll come to our nav items. All right, so we have what? Nav items, sorry, dot nav items li. So we are styling a list element that is a child of a nav item class. So we could say display of inline block, and then we have it in line over there. All right, then also let's give it a list style of none to be sure we have everything over there going off. Then also we could space them a little bit and say a margin of 0 for top and bottom, and then a margin of 10 pixels on left and right, which kind of looks great for us, right? So we are making slow progress over here. Let me see, let me bring this down so we see what we are doing for now. Great. Then on my header container again, I'm going to give it a height. All right, a height of 100 pixels. That is not bad. Then I'll give it an align item of what center, so that everything gets centered nicely for us. All right. Then first of all, I want to take everything off from here. So let me come back to my link, and then I'm also going to apply the same styling to what the nav link item. Remember, they are different, so I don't want to give them the same class. So I have nav link, and I'll come back to do something over here. So now they are also gone. Everything is the same for now. Let's continue building this. Then what's the next thing we're gonna do before that? Right. So I want to give the last button over here. I want to make it look like the last link item. I want it to look like a button. All right. So when I come here, I'll just take off the nav link from there, and then I'm going to give it what, a button class. And you realize that that looks like a button for us, which I believe this looks great. All right. And so we'll just continue. And also, it may look a little bit out of place. It may look too big as compared to the other elements. So what I can come here, what I can do is where I have my button, I could say that the nav items button, all right? And then the padding is what's making it too big over here. So I'll just take off the padding and override the padding for that one. So I could make this 1530, and I believe this looks better now. So other buttons are going to be that big, but for this particular button, it's going to look this way. All right, and then let's also add another effect. Anytime our button is hovered, let's just do something different. So when we hover our button, we want to change the background color to the same thing, but then let's give it some transparency, and that is too much. You know what? Let's not. Let's just lighten the color, the background color a little bit. Right, this looks great. And for now, we are done with our header. All right. So let's go back and then let's work on. Well, let me do one more thing for our header links. I just want to do something fancy so that we could see how we could go about some features. Where is this? Great. So nav link. I'll pick my nav link. All right, and then I'll give it a before, let's say an after pseudo class. Then I'll give it a content. Anytime you're using the pseudo class before and after, remember to bring a content. I'm not putting anything there for now. If I do something like this, you see that it's going to show the D, but I don't want anything there for now. Then I'll give it a display of absolute, not a display, a position of absolute. Then I'll give it a top of 0. All right. Then I'll give it a left of 0. Then I'll give it a width. Sorry, yeah, a width of a height of 2 pixels. All right, and we're not seeing anything yet. Let's give it a background color of this. Then let me increase the height a little bit. Let me do it 5 pixels. All right, and we are not seeing anything yet. Let's give it a width of 100%, and you realize that all the items, the after items are now at the top, but we want it to be relative. What I want to achieve is that when we hover over this, there should be a line drawing at the bottom, all right, to show that it is hovered. So I've declared the after pseudo element. Then on its parent, this particular item, what I'm coming to do is I'll select it alone. Then I'll give it a position of relative. You realize that now the element which we have over here, height of 5 pixels. Let me change it back to 3. All right, that is great. It's now relative to the parent items over here. Then what I could do is change the top to what bottom, so that it's at the bottom, and then I'll give it a margin top of 2 pixels. Let me see how far that goes. Sorry, let me not do it this way. Let me give this minus 2 pixels. All right, so it goes down a little bit for us. Then what we can do is I'll come here, and then let me copy the width instead. And then here I'm gonna make the width 0, because we don't want it to show. Right? I I think I messed something up. All right, so let me just take care of everything, and all I want to focus on is the width. All right, so I want this to be 0. Then when the link is hovered, the after pseudo element should be what it should show. Are you getting it? But then I want to give it a nice effect of it starting from the left to the right. So I'll give it 0 over here. What I'm gonna do is I'll give it a transition of what width. Then I'll give it 0.3s, 0.3 seconds, and we can see that nice animation happening over there for us, which is beautiful in my opinion. You could also do it another way. When you hover over it, it bounces up a little bit depending on how you want it to go. So that's all for now. Then let's continue to the next part of our website, which is the hero section. All right, so I'll come here, then I'll say section, then I'll give it a class of what hero. All right, then I'll come here and give it a div of what hero. Let me give this class of hero section. So I'll name this hero container. So I'm giving the div two classes over here, which is going to be a hero and then a container. So when I want to start the container, it's going to apply to all the items. But when I want to apply a style to just this particular item, the div here, I'm going to use the hero. All right. So inside my hero over here, what I want to do is have some text in the middle, a button, and array, and then I'm going to have a background image. Now I could give the background image to the hero. Let's do that and see what happens. So hero section, and then I'll the hero. Then I would say background image, then URL, then images. Now, it's not showing for us, right? Let's say images, and then let me just go back here and do something. And I want to use, I think, let me look at this image. Let me look at this. I want to use this image too as what the hero background. So I go to images slash what img g2 dot what jpg. And when we save, nothing is happening, and it's because of how we arrange our file directories. Are you getting it? When we leave this directly, it means that over here in our where the CSS file is, it means the images folder is there, but it's not there, which means you have to first of all locate the images folder. All right, so we have to go back to the root or the parent folder. So let's go to what dot slash, and now you see that the images is even showing for us. Then we could just go to image 2, and when we save, that will work for us. We are not saying anything yet because there's nothing in our header. So let's come back here. Let me put something over there, and you realize that our background image starts to show. All right. So first of all, our hero, what I'm gonna do is, let me apply some styles and let me give it a height of 100. So let me use the calculate function, and I'm going to give it 100 viewport height minus, we gave a height to the border, to the header, right? A height of 100 pixels. So I'm going to take that from there so that everything fits directly on the page of 100 pixels. All right. And this is what we are seeing here for our hero. This is nice. Then this is the hero. This is the hero section. So this is what we are doing over here. And this is not working. This is supposed to be a container. So now we have it working well for us. You realize that this image is not covering the whole background, but typically for a background image, it's supposed to cover the whole page for it to look great. And that is the reason I have first of all created my section and then brought the container inside so that things that are not supposed to go to the edges of the page will be inside the container, and anything that's supposed to cover the whole page will now be applied to the main section. So what I'm coming here to do is I'm now going to apply the background image to this rather. So in my CSS, I'll just say, let me do this dot hero section, and we are saying this, but then the height should just be for dot hero, and we are seeing everything because the child element is still pushing. So you can see that my content is going to be contained within this particular element and not the main page. So we are going to continue, and then over here we could have some h1, right, and give it a class of hero text. All right, so we could just make some fake text and say explore the forests of Khartoum. Yes, somebody has a hand up. Yeah, Harrison.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please, I saw a certain minus 100 pixels in your CSS.
Yes.
Yes,
Did you look?
uh,
Were you in yesterday's class?
no, sir.
Okay, so that is why you are lost. This is a CSS function, and it helps us to
Okay.
do calculation. And with the calc, what we are doing here is we are calculating the view. Do you understand the viewport height?
Yes, sir.
So we are calculating the viewport height and then taking 100 pixels from it, and the result should be for what? Our hero section. Are you getting it?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
kindly make
Okay.
time to. I posted a video for yesterday's lesson, so make time to
Yeah.
watch it, and then you understand what I did over here.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And then somebody is asking, why should we desist from using color names? Well, it's not going to cause a problem in your code, just that you are limited because we don't have a lot of color names. And then also, when you realize that I did something over here, when you hover over my button, I am using a different color, but it's not too different from our main color. All right. when you're using color names and you say green and light green or lemon green, the color is going to be very vast, and it's not a good practice, especially when it comes to UI. You have to use colors that do match. It depends on what you're doing, though. So when you use the color codes, you can just make a switch, and then everything looks great for you, right? So the standard is to use RGB, to use HSL, RGBA, or to use the hex code. Then inside here too, we're gonna have a button, right? Explore the forest of Kakum. Then let's have a P, and then let's sorry, a paragraph. Let's give it a class of hero text. So let me make this hero title. Somebody has a hand up as well.
Sir, please can
Ebenezer.
you drop today's project link on YouTube so that those who are not able to catch up will could catch
Yeah,
up
I'll be
because
dropping the
there's a
link.
light out in my place
I'll be dropping the link
and
as
my
we
phone is
always do.
off right now.
No, okay, don't worry, you'll get it, so you can always go back to it. So inside our hero text link, we are going to say, let me give it just some dummy text again, which it's showing over here for us. Then I'm also going to add a button. So you realize that now that I have created my button component, I'll just have to add a link, and then I'll just say explore, that is explore more. Then I'll just, it's showing us a normal link over here, and I'll have to give it a class of what, button, and it's now a full-blown button for us. So that's how the component system works. You don't have to go back and style every button. You have to style it once, and that also ensures consistency in your project. So could come back here, and for now I would say, let me increase this a little bit. We're good to go for the hero section. Let me go to my style sheet, and then first of all, let me apply a display of flex on my hero item. Then I'll just give this justify flex direction of column. All right. Then I'll give it align content of center, and we have everything aligned in the center for us. Then I'll give it a justify content of center again. And you realize that our align content and justify content are switched because we have changed the the flex direction to column. So our axis gets switched. The main axis becomes vertical, and then the uh, secondary axis becomes the horizontal. Then also we have to make sure that our text can be read. So I'll just give it a color and say color of white, FFF, and then everything over here is showing white for us. Great. Then let me give it a text direction, text align of center, and we have this also showing here for X nicely. Then over here, let me now pick my hero title. So dot hero title, then I'll give it a font size of 4 rem. I hope that's not too big. I think it's fine. Then I'll give it a font weight of let me give it 900, and that looks it doesn't look bad. Then here, let me give it a gap of 10 pixels, and let me see how that works. Right, so the gap works fine, and you realize that our text is not that readable, so let's go ahead and apply some filter to what do you call it, our background image. So we could just say um, hero over here. No, sorry, let's do that on the section so that it works entirely. So I could just say filter, then I could say brightness, and I'll give it a 50%. And that is affecting everything. No, there was a property which we used the other time. I've even forgotten about it. That's on. We gave this background color. No, 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 no. Let me just refer back to that property we used. Desktop, I have it here. Right. So CSS. I think we did that when we were doing backgrounds. All right. I used a property. I did use a property. I'm missing it. I'm missing it. Not the attachment, not the URL, not the size. Background blend mode. Very good. It's the background blend mode. So let me put that here. Then let's go back to our page, and we are not seeing any difference. What I'm gonna do is give this a background color. Then let me make that black, and then now that is too much now. So let me control the transparency for this, and let me have my code here. All right, I think this looks better. Great. So now we have our text is now visible, and we can still see our background. Then the next thing I'm going to do is this should break somewhere in the middle. So my hero description, I'll give it a max width of, let's say, 65 characters. Is it hero? No, it's hero text instead, not hero description. Right, and we have it wrapping for X over here. Then I think we are good to go for our hero section. Then the next thing we'll go back and work on is another section. So let me name this header section. Then we have this hero section. Then we can now have what about section. Then we're gonna have a section again. Then we're gonna call this about section. That is a class. Then inside that, I'm gonna have my container again. So I'm gonna have what dot about dot container, and that container class is what's controlling this red box. It's making sure that all my content that I'm putting stays here and doesn't go beyond um, where I want it to be. I don't want it to touch the edges of the page too much. All right. Then I could also do all right. So I have my about container. Inside my about container, I'm first of all going to have a text. All right. Then what I'll do is now after my header, let me bring the about content first. So I have an image, and then I'll now say images slash Let me look at image. No, not this image. Let me go back here and look at the images I want to use. Images and I want to use an image like the Kakum. All right, so that's the name of the image. So we have our image showing over there very big. Then also I'll come back here and add another div and call it about text, right? Then I could just call this one. I could give this. Let me give it an alt of what? Kakum photo. Then I'll give this a class of what? About img. That is the image for the about section. Then I'll have an h2 over here. Then call it about title. Then I'll say get to know more about Kakum. Then I could also have some paragraph and call it about text, right? Then let me have my Lorem text over there. Then let me just increase it. So I have my Lorem text over there. Then should I add a button for now? Let me not add a button. Then I could come back and style this. So my section, I'm going to give my sections, let's call it a border bottom, right? Sorry, a margin bottom, because our section starts from here. So I could now go back here and say that for any section, one little bit here before the hero section should give us a margin bottom of 100 pixels, which is a lot, but it's okay. Then let me go back here, and I think we have our about set. So let me now go back and start about section. So we could say about section. Then first of all, our dot about. Then we give it display of flex because we want the content to be arranged side by side like we are having here. And the image is taken almost everything over here, but we'll still fix it. Then I could let's say I want to give the contents a gap of 20 pixels. All right, a gap of 20 pixels. Then I could come back here and select my about image and give it a width of 450 pixels. All right, and it scales down here first, but I want it to be a little larger. All right, so let me make this a width of let me give it a width of 40% of the parent, and it doesn't look bad. 50. All right, 50 looks great. 50 looks great for us over here. Then I'm going to now, but I want it to appear in the form of a box, so I could give it an aspect ratio of 1 so that it appears in the box. And then over here, our image is stretching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give what an object fit and give it a cover, and realize that now our image fits fine, but this looks kind of too big to me. So let me make this 40%, and this is not bad. Let me just increase the gap to 40 pixels, and this is okay for now. Then display flex, and then let me give it an align item of center. All right, so that everything is centered over here. Then maybe we could go back and add a button and say learn more. All right, so we have our button showing there for us again. Then believe we are done. Let me just increase my text a little bit to add to what I'm doing to see if it's gonna look good. Then yeah, right. So now let me come back to my about text. That is what I have, Nori. So I have about text over here, about text. So let me change this to about description to prevent conflict. So I'll come back here and say dot about text. Then I would give it a display of flex again, and it's gonna change everything. Then I'll give it a flex direction of column. Then we have this. Then now I'll give it an ally item of flex stat. So we have our items over here. Then now I can give it a gap of 30 pixels. I believe that will work great for me. All right, so that is great. Then now I'll select the about title. So my about title, then I'll give it a font size of 2 rem. 2 rem is too small. Let me make it 3 rem in this instance. Then let me give it a font weight. A font weight of 700. Let me give it 900 and see. I really don't like this font that much. You know, guys, let me just make a quick switch over to Poppins font. I think I love I love that a lot more. So I'm just changing the font which we are importing, and this is not a crime. Then I have to come here and specify Poppins, and all right, I think the Poppins looks great for us. Then let me just make this. Let me decrease the font weight from 900. Let me make it 700 and make this for 3.5 rand. Then I believe let me give it a max width of 30 characters. Let me make it 15 and see. Get to know more about Kakun. Then a line height of zero point 0.5 rem. Sorry, it's a 2 rem. 3 should make it look good. Great. Let me decrease my text. I was afraid it wouldn't make it look good. Right, this now looks great for us. Did I apply a gap to our about text? Yes, so let me see what I'm doing wrong. Div here, div here, div p here. All right, so this element was not closed, and I think it's solved now. Let me make this 20 pixels. And all right, so this looks a lot more cool. Let me just make a little switch. Let me make this 50 pixels. All right, 50%. We're gonna have this image very wide. I don't think this is too bad. All right, so line height of 1 em works perfectly for us over here. So we are now done with our about section. And what we could be doing is working on the responsiveness as we go along. All right. So we are now done with our about section. Then let's see. It also mentioned that we should have, let's see, the project requirements. Each site should contain information about the tourist site, photos, and inquiry form. All right. So we're gonna have an inquiry form, and then we also have what a photo. So let's say a gallery section. Right. So now I could just come back here, not this. Let me come back here, then go back to my HTML. Then I have what? Gallery section. So over here, I'll have section, then give it a class of what? Gallery section. Then there we're gonna have our div and call it what? Gallery. Then give it our container utility class, that as well. All right, so we have that showing over here. Then you realize that our website is it's looking beautiful and more beautiful. Then, well, in my eyes, maybe not yours. Then, first of all, let's have what a title, so we could have an H1. Then you realize that we already have a section title over here. Are you getting it? So what we could do is now make that section title now what a component. So instead of giving it an about title, let me just change this to what section title. All right, and this is not going to work. I have to come back to my CSS, and where I have the about title, I'll make it what a section title. That way it will be more appropriate for me to use the same thing for all the other pages. So I could just come back over here and then say h2 dot what section title. Then, oh sorry, I'm not doing CSS. The section title, then say what the Kakun gallery. Just trying to be creative over here. And then we have, I don't have to go and apply the style again. I'm now using the same styling all over. So I could now come back and then give it a P class of what. Then now, all right, so I don't have a description over here, but then I could just give it a gallery, sorry, class of what gallery uh, subtitle, right? Let's say sub, let me say description, because it's going to take a different style. Then we could say grab a look at some of the most beautiful moments from the Kakun National Forest. Right. Then I could come back here and then create a container of gallery dash items, right? And then in my gallery items, I'm going to add my gallery images, all right? So I could now have image dot what gallery dash item. Remember, this is gallery items, the container for all of them, and then each of them is going to have what a gallery item. Then the source, I'll go to images slash what I have gallery one. Then I'll call it gallery one. Great. Then I'll just duplicate it. I have 8 gallery images. This is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8. So I just come here. All right. Then I'll press my Alt and press here again. So I just delete and enter 2, and delete enter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and 8. I save, and I have my gallery images showing here, 8 of them. And of course, these pictures are not from Kakun. you're just using it for licensing purposes. I picked them from Pexels. I did give those links where you can get 9 stock images for your projects. So I think we are done with that for the HTML section. Let me go back to CSS. Then let me say gallery section. So since now this has now become like a utility or let's say a component for us, let me just take it and send it to the top. All right. Now let me put it here. This is supposed to be here. Right. Let me put this over here. It could be anywhere and it will still work. I just want to have an organized code so that you know you have your components at one place. When you're declaring variables, you declare your variables at the very top so that you use them. Then right, so in my gallery section over here, now this particular title, I don't want it to be aligned to the left in this sense. I want it to be aligned to the center. So I could just come here and say gallery, and then the section title for that particular one, I would say text align of what center, and it's not happening. Let me see why it's not happening. I think I gave a match width. Great. So let me remove the match width property, and it is working now. So now this is not working. Okay, this is also okay. So I would ignore it for now. I know initially I added that particular um, property because I was working with a different font and I wanted to have a particular look. And now that it was affecting another thing, I had to take it off. And I was taking it off to come and add it to this specifically. But then I realized this is looking good, so let me just ignore it for now. If it becomes necessary, we'll add it later. Then I would come back here and say that what do we have over here? Gallery description. Right, so dot gallery description. Then I'll give it a T of center as well, and I'll give it a. So I think the match width, this match width of 65 characters, should work for this. And I don't know why this is happening, but let me go back to my gallery. Then I give it a display of flex. Then a flex direction of column. This is still supposed to work. It's not working. Sorry. Then let me just align items to center, and we have it centered over here. So I can make this even 40 characters. Let me make it 50 so that right it looks a little better over here now. Then let me just give this a gap of 20 pixels. Let's see how that looks. No bad. Great. So now we are creating a gallery. We want to have items, maybe 4 columns and 2 rows, right? And we haven't done the grid display, but I'll use it over here. Another time I'll make a video on the grid box. So I have my gallery items over here. I'll just pick it, and it works like the Flexbox, it's just with a little difference. And Gridbox is a lot better in working with responsiveness. It has a lot more advanced features. So I'll just give this a display of grid. Then I'll give it a grid template columns of one F arrow, one F arrow, one F arrow, and then one F arrow. That is one fraction for each. And what this means is that for all the items, I'm gonna give each item. I'm gonna have what 4 columns, and then when you do fractions, you know that this is gonna be 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So each of them are gonna take a quarter of the space that is available. All right. Should I make this 2FR? That's going to take twice the space available. And then what is left is going to be given to the other element. It means the space available is going to be divided into 5. This will take 2 of it. and then this will take one, one, and one. Let me make it one FR so that they all take equal spaces. Then I think I'm good for that. I'm good with that for now. Then I'll just come back and take each gallery item, give it a width of 100%, and we are seeing them look very small over here. No, I'm having 10%, 100%, right? So we have 100% over here. Then let me give them a height. First of all, I want them to appear in a square shape. And since the width is being calculated relatively, if I should give it a height of 100%, it's not going to work well. So let me give it what? An aspect ratio of 1, which means the height will be calculated according to the calculated width. Then you see that something is happening here which is not nice. Our images are being straight. But before that, let me put some gap between our items over here. So back here, I could give it a gap of, let's say, 20 pixels. And it works fine for us. But then let's work on our image because some of the images are straight. They are not having the images are naturally not in square shape, so they are going to be squeezed to have that square shape. But then we can work on it better by giving it a property of what object fit. Then we can have contain, and it's going to look like this. We can have fill, and it's going to look like this, which is the stretch form. Then we could have cover, if you can remember when we were dealing with backgrounds, and you realize that now cover, it spreads the image, everything looks great. Some parts are cut off. Let's say it crops the image to look nice for us, right? Let me now comment that, and you see how stretched the images are. But let me uncomment that and save, and we have our images looking very great for us over here. So let me just apply a couple of styling to it. Let's say when we we want to create a gallery, so we could click on this, it becomes big for us to view. So I could just say cursor, and then I'll change it to zoom in. All right. And that means when you hover over the image, the cursor becomes what, a zoom icon. That will let the user know that they can click on it for it to become big. You have to work on the user experience as well. So for now, nothing is happening when we click on it. We'll be doing a little bit of JavaScript to make our work. I want us to complete this project today. Then what else do I want to do? Great. So when the gallery item, when the picture is hovered, I want to do something. Let's say I want to give it some filter of, let me give it a saturate of 15%. No, let me give it 75% so that it still appears okay. So I don't know if you can see it. Let me change it to 60. And then when we hover over our images, there is some saturation which is happening. It's not too much. It still has to look good. Then I could also do something like transform and then scale. So I could make it 1.1. All right. And then when you hover over each of the items, it becomes big for us. Or I could just make it like zero point 0.9, and when you hover over it, it goes in. So the scale is at 1 by default. When you go 1.1, it increases. When you go to zero point 0.9, it reduces. You could change adjust the figures. All right. And this is not bad, but you realize that it's happening so fast, it doesn't look nice. So we could add some animation. Then we could come back to the parent and then add what we call the transition. Now I did explain that we have to add the transition to the base element. All right, not the hover state. Let's add it to the base element. So transition, and then what we want to do is what we want to animate the transform. Then that should happen in the space of 3 seconds, and then you realize that now we have a nice animation. But then we also have another filter over there. So let's change it to all, so that by the time it becomes small, uh, the saturation will also happen within the same duration. And I believe this is good. When we click on it, still nothing is happening, right? So let's go ahead and design the modal. You realize that when you have a gallery, when you click on it, it becomes big, it pops up. So let's go ahead and design that so that you see how that also goes about. Then back in my HTML, inside my section, I'll have a div, right? So I'll call it pop-up, right? And then inside this pop-up, I'm gonna have what? An image. Are you getting it? And let me give the image source what and hash. Then the let me take off the alt attribute for this particular time. Then what I'm coming to do is first of all, let me put an image over there. Let me put gallery 8 image over there, and I'll use it to do my styling, right? Then let me come back to my style. Let me just copy whatever I have done over here, pop up, all right? So dot pop up. This is how to design make a pop up using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you should pay very close attention to that. Then I would give it a width of 100%, all right? Then I would give it a height of 100 viewport height because it has a pairing. So if we give it a width of 100%, it's going to take that of the pairing. But viewport height is going to take the space available. So viewport height. Then let's give it a background color of black. And let me change that from the color names. I did mention that we desist from using color names, and we'll see one of the very important reasons why in a moment. So let me now come back. This thing we are designing should pop up when an image is clicked. All right. So what we are going to do is say that give it a position. Why am I confusing position with absolute? Position of absolute. All right. And then let's give it a top of 0, and you realize that it has gone to the very top of the page because it hasn't the parent. Remember that for this to be relative to this parent should have what? A position of relative. So should we come to let's say dot gallery dot section and give it a position of relative, realize that this now comes to that area, but that is not what I want to do. So let me take this off. I just wanted to give another explanation, be like at the explain tire, that is worth it, you know. So I'll give it a top of 0, and then I'll give it a left of 0 as well, and it's showing at the very top. All right, that is what we want it to be, or that is where we want it to be. Then let me just give it a bottom. Sorry, this is 0. This is, oh sorry, bottom of 0. And do we have any item with a position of relative over here? No. So the position of absolute is not working well for us in this instance. Let me use the position of fixed. Great. So that wherever we are going to see it show over there like that. That is what I'm supposed to use. We have a bottom, I could just say a top of 0, then a left of 0 as well. Then what we're gonna do next is now give it a display. You come back down here, give it a display of flex, all right, and then give it a justify content of center. So we have our item in the center, then align item, align, align item of center as well. Then we have it filling in here. Then what I could do is maybe this is okay for now. I could just come back and give it a padding. All right, I could give it a padding of 30 pixels, which in this instance we are not seeing any major effect. So let me take off the padding, and then The image over here, let me give it a class and call it what? Pop up dash image. All right. So I'll select that pop up image and then give it a width of 90%, and it looks that great. And then I could give it, let me give it a width of 70. Great. It looks great on my mobile. Then I could give it, all right, let me maintain the width of 70%. I think it looks great. That is what I want to. But then also, when our modal is clicked or when the pop-up comes, there should be a button for us to close it so that we could go back to our main page. All right. So what I'll come back here and then say span. Then I'll give this a class. Give this a class of what do you call it? What do you call it? What do you call it? Close. That's pop-up. So we're closing our pop-up over here, and then we have to get a close icon. All right, so let me go to font awesome cdn again, and then let me go to font awesome. We treated working with icons the other day. So now let me just copy this one, copy link, the url. Then inside my style, I'm now going to import my font awesome. So I'll just have my query at at import. Then I paste this over there. Then I'll come here and say close. So I copy the code for a close icon. All right, so I have X mark over here. Let me just click on it, then copy this particular code, and then put this over here, right? And then go back to my page, and then I can't seem to see anything happen. Then I would come back here. There is not even a need to bring the span element. There is absolutely no need because we could just have our icon and style it. So I could just add another class and say close pop up, right? Then I'll go back into my styles. Then bring this here. Then I'll give it a display. Sorry. Yeah, let me give it a color of white. Then I can't even see it anywhere. Then let me give it a position of absolute as well. Then I think it's showing somewhere. We're gonna see. Then I'll give it a top of 0, left of 0. Right. So now we have it show here for us. Then I'm gonna give it a padding of 10 pixels, and then I'll give it a background color of red. So hash F00. Then I'll give it a border radius of 50% because I want it to be round. Border radius 50%. And it's not a perfect circle, so let me give it a height and width. So I could take off the padding, then give it a height of 10 pixels, width of 10 pixels as well. 30, 30. All right, this looks a lot better. Then I'll give it a display of grid. Then place content of center. so that we have our exchange head over there. Now we can position this anywhere we want. So I could now give this, let's say, a right over here. So I'll give it a right of 50 pixels. Uh, Let me make it in this instance. Let me make it 100 pixels. Then I'll give the top of 50 pixels. So we have our close button showing over here. Then also I could just say cursor pointer so that when you hover over it, we have this showing. And still, we can't see anything happen. Let's come back onto our pop-up and then let's give the background black, a little bit of transparency. Great. So we can still see whatever we have in the background. And then for now, I think we are done with our pop-up as well. And then where do we have here our pop-up? It has a display of flex. Let me just comment that out and give it a display of none in this instance, so we can see our website and everything is working for us. All right. So now let's go and do a little bit of. I'm just gonna add some JavaScript code. We haven't done JavaScript yet, but it will help you to see how much we can do with it. So I could just add my script here. Then, first of all, I'm going to select with all these images. I'm going to just give it a quick function instead of just come here, right? Then give an on click, sorry, on click property, and that's you can also add this on click property to define a Java, give a JavaScript code within HTML. So that's another property of elements in HTML. So on click, then I'm going to say I'm going to show pop up. So I'm calling a function over here. Then I'm going to pass a parameter for the function and call it SRC, which is the source. And so that when this image is clicked, that is on click, I'm going to call what a show pop up function. Then I'll pass a parameter, and the parameter is going to be what the source of this particular the image. That is the URL link. Then I'm going to do something. So if you have some basic JavaScript knowledge, you'll see how this is going. Then first of all, I'm going to say call my function. Now I'm now coming to define the function, right? So function show pop up. This show pop. Sorry, it should be show pop up. D D D D D D. So I just come there to say show pop up. Great. So we have that working for us. Great. So show pop up. All right. So that's what I have there. And then now I'm going to pass in a parameter, right? So if you've done JavaScript here, now that I'm defining the function, I'm passing a parameter. When I'm calling the function here, this is an argument. And we'll look at those things later on when you're doing JavaScript, right? Image src, that's image source. Then I'm going to say when this function is called, first of all, when we call this function, what we want to happen is that what our what do you call it, the pop-up which we designed earlier, we've given it a display of none in CSS. Here we've given the display of what none. So when we call it, then we should have a display of what flex, because we are moved from display of block to display of flex. So we should now have the display of flex. So we'll now have something like this, then it will show. All right. So first of all, I'm going to use something in JavaScript called the query selector, and it's used to select elements inside our web page. So I'll just declare a variable and say let pop up. And remember, this pop up is different from what we used for the CSS classes. To be document dot query selector, then now I'm going to select it by the class, right? So this particular gallery, no, sorry, here, pop up, I'll select it, and because it's a class, I'm bringing dot. If it was an ID, I would bring hash, just like we have in CSS selectors. All right, then that's going to be our pop-up, yes, our pop-up selector. So when this function is triggered, we have to set this pop-up dot style. So we are going to change the sorry, we are going to inside our CSS, we are going to change the display from none to flex. Are you getting? We'll do that with JavaScript. So we are going to say dot style dot display is equal to what? Flex. All right. And then let's see what happens. You realize that when I click on the image, anytime I click on an image, now it begins to show for us, which is very nice. Then also, what we want to do is let me come back and remove this particular image over here and bring an hash. All right. So when I click here, the image that's supposed to now the image is broken. Right. Let me just use a placeholder image to show that a better placeholder. And then I'm just gonna copy the link over here so that this image, the image that's supposed to show over here, it's supposed to be what? The particular image the user clicked on. So now what we are going to do is we will now have to come and select this particular image again. And then just like we change the style for the pop-up, we have to change the source of this image from this fake placeholder to what the particular image the user clicked. All right. And how do we get the image the user clicked? Inside our, when we call the function, we pass the argument src. So this src is going to be this. So when the user clicks on image 2, it's going to be gallery 2, the picture gallery 2.jpg that will come. When the user clicks on the last picture, which is the 8, it's going to be gallery 8, that's going to be passed. It's a dynamic, what do we call it? It's dynamic. It's different as per what the user selects. So we have now let me say let pop img equals what document dot query selector. Then how, what did we name it? Pop-up image. So let me bring my semicolon again. Now what we are going to do is when this function is called again, the pop-up should be displayed. Then we'll change the image src to what? The URL of that particular link. And that should be, we know that when the function is called, that's what's going to be passed over here. Are you getting it? So now that we are defining our function, that's going to be what? Um, img src, image src, so equal to this. So whatever parameter, or whatever argument is going to be passed when the function is called, the source of this is going to be set to that particular URL. And that is what we are doing over here. And so let's see if that happens. We click on this and we have our lion. Then we refresh again. Then we click on elephant and then we have an elephant. So we have our nice pop-up model working. But then when we click on this everything should hide again. So now I could just come back and say close pop-up. Are you getting it? Then I'll just do this again. And then I'll say close pop-up. Close, or sorry, what am I doing? Close pop-up is support to document or query selector. Close pop-up. So that is what I have over there. And then I'll just say that this close pop-up, when it is clicked, dot add event listener. When it is clicked, then I'm gonna pass in an arrow function. We'll learn all of this when we get to JavaScript. Then we'll say when it is clicked, we want it to do something. And what do we want it to do? Now this pop-up over here that we have displayed it, we should now hide it. Are you getting it? So we are now coming back here and say pop-up.style.display to reward to none. So when an image is clicked, the pop-up should come, then the image should be set, the URL of that pop-up image should be set to the particular image that was clicked, and then we have that working over. Then when this is clicked, this modal should be lost again. Uh, this is not working. Sorry, the on click, I spelled the click wrong over here. So let's see if it works now. and we have our modal working nicely for us. So you click on an image, and we have. So we've just built a gallery or a pop-up a modal in JavaScript real quick, which is pretty nice, and that is great. Let's continue to working with. What we can also do is if we want to have, if we are going to have a lot of JavaScript, you wouldn't want to add it in your HTML, right? Let me just take that off for now. Let me remove this and then say script source. Let me say script. Then let me go back into my file tree and the script I'll create and say main.js, and then I'll paste this over there, right? Then I'll just say link to it main.js, and everything is going to work the same. Just like you can have an internal style sheet and an external style sheet, you can have internal JavaScript or external and link to it, and everything is going to work the same for you. So now let's go back. We are done with our gallery section, and it's great. Then the next thing we are going to do is go ahead. Let's see. We also have to design an inquiry form and then a form to book a visit, and that would look like a duplication. Two forms at the same place wouldn't be that great, right? However, we're going to build it. Then, how do we go about that? What do we do? What do we do? Let's come back here. Then, let's see, contact section. All right, contact section. So we have a section contact section. Then I'll have dot contact dot container, and I believe you guys understand what I'm doing from this point forward. Let's have our web page showing for us. We have this and this. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have let's have another image and then a contact form. All right. So we're gonna have another image and a contact form. So we could have two containers so that we have contact form. All right. Then we are gonna have a form element in it, and I'm not gonna give the action. Then the method should also be post. We are not dealing with processing forms yet. We'll do that when we get to PHP, so you would understand what those things do. So inside our form, then we are gonna have an input type of text. All right. Then we could give it a placeholder of name, say full name, because when you are contacting somebody, you should get your name. Then I could say from the book text of email, then placeholder would be example at email.com. Then also we would want to give them, there was another form input element which we didn't look at. That's the text area, and it helps you to write a lot more of a lengthy text. Are you getting it? We have set their outlines to 0, and let me, I think we'll work over here. So let me just remove the border to 0. So we now have our form borders showing over here for us, and this is how the, what do you call it, the text area looks. So you can write a lot a lot more text into it, not like the textbook where you are limited to just one line of text. So we will let's continue and style. No, we go to the top and bring this back. All right. So I could just come back here and say contact section. Let me go back to my HTML. Let me just take off the JavaScript from here, close the file tree. And then I could say Now let me take off the ID, let me take off the name because we wouldn't be using them in this particular instance. We're just creating something to stand. And then the columns defines the number of columns, how wide this is going to be, right? So if I should have, let's say, 300 columns, you have the form input that's that wide. If I should say 50 columns, we have our column this wide. Then if I let me just maintain it on the default 30, then the rows is how tall it's going to be. Uh, if I say row 50, you realize that we have our row very long, and so let me just leave it on the default 10, and then we have our form over there. Then I'm gonna have another div. Then also we should have what, a button, all right? So I have my button, which is gonna submit our form, and it's not going to be looking that great. Let's say submit, and our button isn't looking that great. But I want it to be styled like all the other buttons. Again, I'm just going to bring my class over there so I could say that it's TN, and then we have our nice button showing over here. And then what's happening is that the button is not showing, it's not giving the pointer icon, right? So back to our classes, let me go to the top, and then anything that is a button, we should say cursor pointer. So it was working by default for the links that would start them as buttons, but for the button element, you'd have to do that manually. So now it's been applied to it. Then also, I could I did mention earlier that form elements do not inherit some properties like the font settings. Are you getting it? Form elements do not inherit properties like the font settings. So you could see that. Let me see over here. When I click on the button over here, you realize the font is Arial instead of the poppins which I have assigned for every other element. All right. Then over here, everything is Arial as well. So what I could do is come back here and say that form, my body, where I'm aligning, I'm giving this, I could just say form. All right. And is that working? It's not working directly. It's not even inheriting from the parent. So the right thing is to use input and then also button, all right? And it's gonna work for all of them. I believe this is great. This is not bad. Then let's continue to the button. Let's continue installing our section. Then we want to have an image by our contact form on the right as well. So we could say that let's say we have a P. Then we say have any inquiries to make, feel free to contact us using the form below. All right, so we have that showing. Then all right, so we have our first container contact form over here. Then we could now have contact, sorry, contact image. I could just bring the image directly, dot contact image. And you realize that even for the most basic stylings I want to do, I don't select the element, I just give it a class. Because when you're building a project, you're going to have elements duplicating, all right? We have a lots of images over here now. If I should apply a style to the image, it's going to apply to all other images, even ones that I don't want the style to be applied to. So that is the main reason we have classes. So I could give this let me just pick a random image. Let me look at the images available, which would be more appropriate for a contact section. No, not the lion. The lady, I was initially thinking of doing something different with the lady. Let me go back to my initial plan. So let me take the lady off. Then let me take this container off as well and do this. So instead of having two containers, I wanted to use a display of flex, but I've changed my mind. Everybody can change their mind at any time, and it's allowed. So first of all, I want to give this section, this particular section, a background image. And a background image wouldn't fit if it's boxed. Are you getting it? There are instances where it would look very great. but that is not what we want to achieve over here. So again, let me explain. I'm not going to pick this contact here and give it a background image. I'm going to pick the section itself. So I'll pick the class and say contact section. And so I come back here and I say contact section. Then I could say a background image and give it a URL. And that is image 3. So sorry, I have to go back because I'm in the styles folder. So I'll go back to images. Then I'll now go to IMG 3. And then when I open my web page, we have the lady and it's showing very big that we can't even see anything. Well, we'll see what happens. Then the other thing I can do is let me style this and give it a height of 100, a viewport height. Right, let me see what happens. So we have our image showing. Then I could say uh, background size is cover. Background size is cover. Then I could also give it a background position of center, and it's gonna center everything for us. And this looks nice. But before that, let me give this a background color of black. You know what? We're using a thin color of green, and we haven't used the green enough. And it's not by force to have the thin color showing everywhere. It doesn't even look that great in most of the time. But I want to just bring this here, all right? Then I'm going to pick a darker version of that green, and then we are going to bring a background blend mode of multiply, and we have it showing that way. And this just doesn't look great for me, honestly speaking. So I could see how. Right, this is not bad, but I just want it to be a little more black. I feel that would be better. I think this is not bad. Then I could do something which we haven't done yet, and give it a attachment background attachment of fixed. And we realize that as we are coming, the picture is static and then everything scrolls over it and it looks that nice. Then I give my section a height of 100 viewport height. I'm going to take it from there, and then I'll give that to the container rather, and give that a 100 height of 100 viewport height. Sorry, not hero, but contact. And then we have this looking this great for us, so we could continue working on it. Then also I could just come back and say, let's say we want to have uh, an H2, all right? Then we remember that, let me give contact us. We had a section title, class, all right? So class equals what section title, and it looks nice for us, but we want it to be centered. And we did apply a centering property. We did center text. We gave a text align of center to what was it? The gallery section. I get it. The gallery, the section title at the gallery. So another thing we could do is just take this off and then add another class and say dot center. So anytime we have a section title that has a centered class as well, we're gonna have a text align of center. And let's go back here. You realize that this nothing is happening because we are using the display flex over here. I could just come back. Where was I? So section title, then make this center, and we are not saying let's use the flex. So if that particular property is not working for us, then I think we can take it from our code because it's not doing anything. Let me just comment it and make sure nothing gets destroyed. All right, so let's just comment it. Then what am I gonna do this time? All right, so I'm gonna give this a display of flex. So I will give it a display of flex, and we have everything shifted. Then we're gonna use the flex direction of column. Then everything goes back for us again. Then we are going to use light content center, justify content center. We want everything to be right in the middle for us. Then we could just define the color of white, which affects this and this, but not this. Now we're gonna style our font differently, all right? Then let me give a gap of 30 pixels. Let's see what happens. Right, that is great. Then now let's come back here and then pick our font. All right. We may have another form later. So now what I'm gonna do is form and say, give it a class of what? Contact dash form. Then I'll come here, say contact dash form. Then I'll say, let me give it a display of flex again. Then I'll give it a flex direction of column, which looks great over here. Right, then I'll give it a gap of 20 pixels, which is not bad for each item. Then I could say that now let me work on installing my inputs. So I'll go to contact form, then input, then I'll give it a padding of 15 pixels, 30 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Those don't look bad. Then I'll give them a width of 100%. We're not seeing anything, so I could come here and give my form a width of 50%. And this doesn't look that great for me. Let me make it 35. Alright, so this is down here, this is here, this is here. And then I have my button as well. I have my button as well. So I could give, remember, we want to make sure we have consistency. Our buttons are having background radius. They are kept, so we could just do same for our fonts. What do we call it? Our form elements, the input elements. So I could say that input, oh sorry, border radius, and I think we're using 10 pixels if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back and check for our button. Border radius of 10. Yes, I was right. So border radius of 10 pixels, and then we want the same thing to be applied to our input element as well. So sorry, the text field. So we could just say text area, and that is also going to have that same style. And think now that the size is increasing, what is happening over here is that okay. So let me just make this. I believe this looks great. Then now our padding is reducing. So let's give a padding to our contact here. Let's give it a padding. Let me fix it somewhere here. Let me give it a padding of 100 pixels. Inspect. Let me see why that is not happening. And then let me look at styles. Let me just remove this and try to figure out why that is not happening. Okay, so initially I've figured it out. Initially I've declared a height on it, so now we've given a fixed height, and that is what's causing the problem. Now that we have content that is more than the viewport height, I think we can take off the height. So you realize that the height is now fixed to 100 viewport height, but now I'm taking the height, so it's going to adjust to the width of the height of the content, right? And so I think I believe we are good to go for now. Uh, this is great. Then all right, so let's go back now. Let's design our footer. Let's assume that this is going to be uh, you know what? Yeah, let's overlook our our booking form for now. Let's go and design the footer. Then we could say, let's come back here and say footer section. So we are going to use footer just like we have the semantic footer header element. So we're going to use footer. Then inside that too, I'm going to use what dot footer dot container. Where was I? I was here. Footer container. Then I'll come back here and say footer. Sorry, class. Footer section. And then in my footer container, I'm going to give, let's say I'm going to put it an image. So I'll have image dot footer. Let me give you the class of logo. I've already done that. So let me see if that particular styling is going to work for this as well. All right. So logo.svg, and then we have it showing over there. And let's say footer logo. Then down here, next thing we're going to put over there is let's put a link at the a navigation link at the bottom, right? So let me just scroll to the very top and copy what I have over there. Uh, Let me copy this now. I don't know. I could just say area label, footer, navigation. Then I'll just leave that for now. Then I'll come back and what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? So here I'll just say footer now. Footer nav link. Alright. Then I'll take my button. Of course, I don't want it over there, and I have this showing over here. So I could just come back here and let me see the nav link. Whatever I've applied to it, does it work? It is gonna work for now. Let me just leave it, and then let me come here and say footer section, my CSS, right? Then I'll say the footer section. Let me give it a height, a mean height, a mean height of let's say 100 viewport height. This should be good. So back at the contact section where I took off the height which I give to the contact here. Um, I took off the height which I gave to the contact. What I could do is make give it a mean height rather, which means if the content is not up to that particular height, then it should be 100 viewport height. If the content are more than that, then it should expand to take that. And I believe it's still working well for us. So that is great. So we have a footer section over here. And now let me take that off and let's give it to footer because I want to expand the child, right? Then coming back to here, let me come back here, give it a display of flex, a flex direction of column. Then I'll give it a justify content of center. Then I'll give it an ally items of center as well, so we can have our link and everything centered. Then I could just give it a gap of 30 pixels, and this doesn't look bad. Then back here, I'll give this a background color of our green. Then I'll give it a background image as well, and then I'll give it a URL. And let me see. Let me exit first, and I have the images. Let me look at. I think we used image two. Now let's use image one for our photo background. So I'll just say image one, which let's see. Well, it's nicely applied over here for us. Then let's go back and apply the rest of our properties on it. So we could say background size, cover, right? And that does that magic for us over there, but we still can't see things over here. So let's use the background blend mode, background background blend mode, make it multiply, and this is too much of a green. And let's just make it a little dark, just like we did earlier. I think we could still see a nice white on this. Then the next thing you're gonna do is just to style our footer links. All right, so we have them what footer nav link, and then we'll just go there and say that color of white. Then we could say TD none. All right, and then we have that looking right. Then now our image too isn't that visible because it's green, right? So what I could do is I have added another image. I have I have a logo white over there, so I could just put that here, and that looks great. Then I could just say footer dot logo. Now I'm going to start dot logo, but I don't want it to affect the header because if I should say width to like 200 pixels, let's go back and it's affecting our header. I getting let me make it 500 and see because we've added that particular class here, right? So what I'm gonna do is coming back here and say footer. So it's only going to style a class of logo that has an ancestor of footer. Then we could just say scroll to the very bottom, then give this 300. I think this looks big enough for a footer, and that is very great. And then if you're wondering why the red line is there, I'm just using this as guide to see my container. All right, and that is it. I think we are done with the home page. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna do next thing. I'm not gonna create pages for the. I'm not gonna create other pages. I'm just gonna link to several sections that we have. Tomorrow we'll be making. Sorry, tomorrow on Monday. It's either I'm gonna record a video to work on the responsiveness, or we do that on Monday, and then we're gonna make it device responsive between 2 hours in. And I think we've had enough. My neck needs to rest as well. I've got to be honest. My neck hurts. So I'm just gonna add make these things to work. So that when we click on it, it takes it to the about section, and the others are gonna work the same as well, right? So I'm just coming back into my CS. Let me go back to into my HTML, and then I want to give this a hashtag. I've named it the home because when they click on it, it has to check them, and it doesn't even have an importance in this particular instance, unless we are making our header fixed. But let's just leave it there. Then I'm giving this hash about, then hash gallery, and hash contact. And what this means is that when this is clicked, it's going to look for any element that has an ID of gallery. That is what we are doing over here. Then we could say um, hash. Now this tomorrow we are going to build a pop-up. When we click on book, there's going to be a pop-up just like we have modal. So when you want to book for you want to book to go to the tourist site, you have to use that pop-up. So we'll build that tomorrow. Sorry, tomorrow the next during our next section. So for now, let me just leave this as that. Then I'll go back and where I have my about section, where I have my about section, I would now add an ID and say what about. All right. So that when I come on my homepage and I click on about, it jumps me straight over there, and then I'll go back to my gallery section and then add an ID and say what gallery, and then oh sorry, let me take off the hash. When you're defining the ID, you don't bring the hash over there. If I scroll to the top, and then it will take me to the gallery directly, and then let me go back and do the same for contact ID and say contact, and let's see if that works as well. Boom, that works. The booking, we haven't taken care of that yet, so we will leave it. And then one thing you will notice is that when we click, it just jumps directly over there. Well, there's another property we can add to our HTML element. And let's go to the very top and add it over there. I could just say HTML and then say scroll behavior. Sorry, not scroll bar width. Scroll behavior and say smooth, right? And now let's click here and see what happens. You see that smooth scrolling. Let's go to gallery, and it happens that smooth for us. Let's go to contact, and it also happens that smooth for us. Definitely, we have to bring something because we can't have two backgrounds matching at the same place in a typical sense. This doesn't look good to me, but let me leave it. We'll improve on it during our next session. It's not a good. It doesn't look good to have two background images showing one after the other. So definitely there should be some text to separate them, and that we'll work on it on our next during our next session. And so that is it for today. Now let's do one last thing. Let's have a scroll to top button so that when we click on it, it's gonna scroll us back to the very top, and it's gonna be a floating button. So let me just go to my font or something again and just search for uh, Chevron app. Let me say Chevron. So that icon is called a Chevron app. If you don't know its name and you search for Arrow app, you can go through the options and you can get a similar thing and use. Right? If you search for Arrow, these things will show up for you again. So that's how you get to know the name of those icons, and you don't even have to know them. You just search where you pick the class, and you're good to go. And I'm going to add that inside my footer, and it's not going to cause any problem because I'm going to do something to it. You can add it anywhere in the page. So I'm going to add this over here, and then call it give it a sorry uh, I'm already in the class property, the class attribute, so I'll just get to top, right? To sorry That's to top. So I'll just have to come and pick this, jump into my CSS. Let me see what's happening for our page. I can't even see the icon. So but let me style it, and then we'll be able to see it all at once. I'm done styling to top, and then I'm going to say padding of no, not a padding. Let me give it a height of 50 pixels, a width of 50 pixels as well, a background color of our green, then a color of white. All right, so I think we can see our item hiding at the very bottom over here because of this widget. I'm not able to see it. Then let me give it a display of a grid to center the icon. Then give it a place content of center. Then I'll give it a border radius of 50% to make it round. Then let me give it a position of fixed. All right, and it's jumping straight to. All right, we are not saying it. Let me give it a top. Sorry, a bottom in this case, a bottom of 0. And then we are saying it over here now. Then we can give it a right because I want it to put position on the right side, right, and then we have it over here now. So what I can actually do is it shouldn't be directly lying at the bottom of the page, so I could give it a bottom of 20 pixels. Let me see how that works out. Not bad. Then I'll give it a right of 20 pixels as well. So we have our scroll to top button, and nothing is showing, nothing is happening. All we can do is make it a link, and then just come back here. Then I'll say A, then give it a hash, put this over there so that when we click on it, it takes us straight to the very top, and we have a complete web page. It looks great on um, what do we call it? The laptop or on a desktop display, but it doesn't look that great on mobile display. All right, and so our next section we're going to make it device responsive, so that it's going to look great on a mobile. When I inspect elements, inspect and I began to squeeze this down, realize that this is not looking fine, this is not looking fine, all of these are not looking that fine. All right, so we'll work on that to make it look great. Then you can showcase this in your portfolio to show that you're also a web developer and you start creating really great things. Thank you very much for joining me. We were supposed to spend 2 hours. We spent um, 30 minutes extra, but I believe it was for a good cause. I don't know if anybody has any question at this moment, anything that they need clarification with. Does anybody have a question? Are you guys there or you're sleeping off?
Yes.
So we are here. We are here.
All right. I wasn't hearing from anybody for quite a long time. So when I asked and I had no response, I was like, what's happening? But it's great you guys are following. If nobody has a question, so we are far gone. If nobody has a question, then I would say thank you very much for uh, hanging on. And I believe you guys understood most of the things I did along the way. We'll be doing more and we'll see how well we could see. Now we know how we could use some of our pseudo elements like the before and after to create some really nice effects on our page. The other day we looked at how we could use the custom attribute to use make a placeholder, or sorry, a tooltip or something. There are several ways to go about those stuffs, and so we'll keep building. We'll keep learning a whole lot of things. And thank you very much once again for hanging on. Have a good evening, you all.
Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
You're welcome.